So, Victoria, what have we got here?
Well, Justin, nice of you to ask. Hello. This is an Aston Martin, believe it or not. It's an Aston Martin Cygnet. I've been practicing saying that for a while. Cygnet.
This is a fascinating car, actually.
It is. It's amazing.
And you've actually dressed for the occasion as well.
Well, I do have an event straight after this.
Okay, that's why.
But yes, let's just pretend that I've put this dress on. I did make sure I didn't clash with the car, so some thought was put into it. But anyway, back to the car.
Yes.
This is the cutest goddamn thing I've ever seen. It makes me want to go out, buy a DB11, just so I can have this in my garage, just so it goes.
These are really fascinating cars because they're so rare. They're really very rare and no pressure in terms of you driving around in it.
Justin keeps saying this because I got in it thinking, meh, this is all right. And then he started going, you know, there was only like 300 of them made, right?
Less than. Let's talk about the styling and the look of this car, because do you like the vents?
They're little, are they little fake air vents? They're
I
fake
think they
air
are
vents.
actually fake, yeah.
They are, there's
they're
nothing
not.
there.
Yeah.
But a lot of thought has gone into this. So have you seen the interior? This interior, look at that. Look
It's
at
a bit
the
special.
quality of that leather. I know you won't be able to see it as well with camera, but it is just absolutely gorgeous.
It's finished really well inside, isn't it?
It is, and there's nothing too fancy because it came out, you know, 2011, 2013, which is just before we went crazy with buttons and technology and screens and everything, touchscreen and all of that. It's got nothing of that. It's just completely simple.
Yeah, we like that.
I do. Buttons just do what they say. I managed to turn the volume down in like 3 seconds. It was just intuitive. So in the back here, I can't possibly get in the back today.
It's slightly tight back there.
There's no way. I mean, you've got enough for a briefcase, but you do have 2 proper back seats to put things on.
Yeah, they are proper
or,
back
you know.
seats, definitely.
You could have your cats on them, you know. The detail on the door handle.
Yeah, I
with
noticed that earlier,
the name
actually.
engraved, and it is absolutely beautiful. And whoever has one of these should feel very, very honoured.
But this is actually short but wide. In fact, it could be the same width as
a normal car.
Length, isn't it? Yeah. I wonder how many they made this colour as well, because it's such a nice colour, isn't it? It really sort of stands out. It's quite
I feel
a special
like
colour.
you're just trying to make it even more exclusive than it already is, so that I'll shit myself driving it back to the car park.
I doubt we'll drive a rarer car than this.
Oh, I don't know. Don't challenge me, son.
Ooh.
Don't challenge me. You don't know what I've got up my sleeve.
Should we take it for a spin?
Let's go.
Let's go.
I got us a naughty cupcake each.
Why would you do that?
Smell it. It just smells of sugar.
It smells good. You want to make me fat and unattractive.
That's exactly what I want
So
to do.
that
To
you
make
look
you
more
unattractive.
attractive, yet on the camera, and I just look like some fat ugly geek.
That's my plan exactly, yeah.
Knew it.
It's keyless go,
Oh.
so you don't need a key at all. You have a button here that just says engine start stop. There's no start or stop where the engine cuts out.
Oh,
annoyingly.
good.
There's nothing like that. Only thing I don't like, one of the things that I love, when I started selling cars, high-end cars, I sold a V8 Vantage. And I was mesmerised by the key. I didn't like the sound that much. I'm not a massive Aston Martin fan myself.
Is that like that glass key?
It was a glass key. It was super expensive. And I remember my boss at the time dropped it, smashed it, and it was like...
really?
It was ridiculous. I can't remember how much it was, but it was very expensive because the end of it is glass, and it had like a hologram of the Aston Martin inside it. Anyway, so to think that they did all that and then they did this...
That is quite disappointing. I hate it when you get a disappointing key.
The gentleman handed it to me and I said, oh, is that the fob for your garage? He's like, no, it's the car key. Are you comfy?
Actually, I think I'm more comfortable than the Mazda.
You look more comfortable than any car we've driven
I sat here like a good boy with my hands on my knees. I don't know if you know about the history of this car.
I only know what I googled yesterday, so please fill me in all of your geeky knowledge.
Right, so let's start with, it's an Aston Martin Cygnet, which is based on the Toyota IQ.
Right.
And when the Toyota IQ came out, you were laughing at me yesterday when I said I was fascinated by this car.
I mean,
because the engineering that went into this car to make it what it is really, really interesting. there's actually more room here than there is there where you're sat.
Yeah.
And it's because of the way they did the heat and ventilation system, the way the gearbox and everything's integrated together. You've got all this space here. There's hardly a bonnet. There's hardly a bonnet. And amazingly, you can fit 2 people behind us.
You can.
But
you can.
they don't call it a 4-seater, they call it a 3+1.
Oh.
Because
Oh.
I have space to move forward.
Yes.
No, you're braking. Which means that the person behind me can actually sit quite comfortably.
Okay.
But behind you, there's not a lot of space.
Right.
So it's emergency seat, really. You could push yourself closer to the steering wheel, be a bit uncomfortable, but squeeze a 4th person in.
I'm loving it. Like the drive, it's what you would expect.
Excuse me.
The drive, Justin, please behave. The drive is lovely and smooth. You're very aware of the size of her, that she's tiny, so you feel very comfortable to like nip her in and out of places. You know, she's lovely. But because she has an Aston badge on the front, I personally would only buy this car if I were an Aston owner.
Well, it's funny you should say that. Because originally they were only offered for sale to
the
Aston clients.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't buy one otherwise. But
Red
what happened
also.
was that the Aston clients didn't want them.
No.
So
They were like, what the fuck
then
is
they were
that?
like, okay, well, anybody can buy one. And
Oh, the
they
shame of
didn't.
it.
So yeah, so it wasn't. So the same way the IQ wasn't a success,
Yes.
this wasn't. This was even more of a failure. Than
The IQ wasn't a success in Europe or in the States, but it was in Asia.
Right.
Asia,
I didn't know
they're
that.
loving the IQ, can't get enough of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were manufactured between 2011 and 13, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You only lasted a couple of years.
Just so
I'm glad you've done some research today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it only lasted a couple of years in production. And in fact, the numbers, they never actually published the full production run.
Right.
So
Like
it's
4.
anywhere between 200 to 300, probably closer to 200 than 300.
Shit, now I'm really nervous.
Which makes it rarer than DB5, makes it rarer than a DB6, and it's like, wow, and those cars fetch, you know, hundreds of thousands.
Now I'm
if
really
not
nervous at driving.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're driving one of the most exclusive Aston Martins that you can actually buy. What's strange about this car, though, it's actually quite wide.
We're very far
short.
apart,
Yeah,
aren't we?
we are. There's a bit of a gap between
I know,
us.
I
We're
feel-
not rubbing shoulders
I feel
anymore.
like I need to, like, you know.
I feel like I have to shout across to you.
Hello. No, they've whatever. If it's Toyota, if it's Aston, whoever it was, they've made good of the interior.
This leather, we were talking about this lovely leather. This is DB9 leather. This was the same leather they used in the Aston Martin DB9, so it's really high quality leather. In fact, when they built the cars, because they were shipped to Aston Martin sort of partially built, you know, with the powertrain in place and everything, but
Okay.
Aston Martin painted the bodies. They then sorted the suspension as well, and then redid all the interior. And they would spend 150 hours on each car, which is a huge amount of time.
What were they selling for in the 30s? No,
So they,
mid-30s.
yeah,
was
about
it?
35,000, which is actually what you can, pounds that is, by the way. And that's roughly what you can pick one up for today. And I think these are a really good investment because there's so, in fact, when I looked online, there's very, very few available. They don't really come up for sale very much.
Okay.
And so if you can pick one up for 35 grand, in 5 or 10 years' time, this can only go up in value.
Well,
There's
people,
so
you
few.
heard it here first. That's all I'm saying.
And actually, it's a nice little car, isn't it?
I love it.
As a you know, just going around town and stuff like this, how lovely to go around in an Aston Martin. And if there is a criticism with these cars, well, there's lots of them really, but it's the gearbox.
Yes.
Because it's a CVT,
Yeah.
which I hate with a passion. Is this the glove box?
Yes.
The glove box is actually a bag.
It's a leather pouch.
It's a leather
I
pouch.
love it.
Do you know why Aston Martin did it originally?
I do. It was something to do with the overall CO2 emissions, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh God, I love it when I'm equal your geekiness. Sometimes doesn't happen very often, but that was explained to me many moons ago, and I thought I was mesmerised by that.
So there's obviously a lot more robots involved these days, but in those days they were very predominantly
they
hand
still
built.
say hand.
They do,
crafted.
but it's not quite as much as it used to be. So.
Well, handcrafted by robots. Robots have hands.
They
No?
do these days.
Exactly.
Oh, there's a nice McLaren there. They're very common compared to this, though.
Oh, they are. Every twat's got one. I love it. I want 3 of them. She was a beautiful drive. if you had an Aston and you needed a car to get around, an everyday car, you would have this. I love it. There's no buttons, no technology. You're really far away from me.
I don't smell, you know.
Oh, he doesn't. He smells very nice. It's very clean.
I do wash every day.
Good.
Anyway, so
I mean, there's nothing bad to say about it.
if you're just going around town, local
perfect.
driving, you know, short distances, maybe even on the motorway might be okay. We don't know, but
All in all, great stuff. You have an Aston. If you're obsessed with the brand and you can get your hands on one of these, doesn't look like they'll be depreciating anytime soon.
I don't think so.
So go ahead and buy yourself a couple of them.
Good.
All right.
I'm going
See
to
you
start
soon.
going on the classifieds tonight. See you later.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.